Hello viewers, this is Fahim Munaim welcoming you to our editor's guest program. Today we have a very distinguished diplomat in our studio. He is Mr. Pankaj Saran, the Indian High Commissioner to Bangladesh. Mr. Saran, welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
Before we move on to our discussion, I'd like to give a brief background of His Excellency's career, education, etc. Mr. Saran completed his master's in economics from the Delhi School of Economics in Delhi University. And he joined the Foreign Service in 1982. Mr. Saran was in Bangladesh earlier. He was here as a first secretary political. So basically, he is not new to the country. He presented his credentials on 14th of March 2012. And he also had a very distinguished career in many other parts of the world, which is Washington, D.C., Cairo, Geneva. And he has also, as I mentioned earlier, that from 89 to 92, he was in Bangladesh as First Secretary Political. And back home at the headquarters, he served in the Ministry of External Affairs in the East European divisions as Deputy Secretary, then in the Foreign Secretary's office as Joint Secretary, and he also heading the division dealing with Nepal and Bhutan. From 95 to 99, he served on deputation to the Prime Minister's office, first as director, dealing largely with economic, energy, science, and technology issues. Then from 2007 to 2012, he dealt with the external affairs, defense, national security, atomic energy, and space sectors. So you can easily say that he had a very, very important position in the government, and we are very happy that he has come back to Bangladesh as the High Commissioner. Mr. Pankaj Saran is married with 2 sons, and I am told that his interest includes tennis, playing bridge, and reading. I don't know when he gets the time to read, but that's one of his hobbies. Welcome again.
Thank you very much, Fahim.
To start off, High Commissioner, that what we would like to do is to, if you just let our viewers know, according to you, that what is the foreign policy of India in a nutshell?
That's a difficult question, but at one level, let me say that the foreign policy of India is very closely associated with our own internal domestic priorities. And as a developing country, which is relatively new as a nation, having got our independence just over 60 years ago, we have very pressing domestic priorities. And the most important to my mind and to the mind of our policymakers is the economic development, the social development, and the human development of India. And to maintain a social fabric of the country which corresponds to the population and which enables the population at large to overcome centuries of deprivation and poverty. Now, keeping that in view, what we would like is to develop a policy which enables India to create an external environment which is conducive to our development. Now, that environment naturally is at many levels. It is at the regional level, it is at a global level. So our effort is to contribute to a global order which is conducive to India's economic development.
Looking at the realities, what kind of policy does India follow in respect to Bangladesh?
Well, I think the relationship with Bangladesh is one of the key relationships we have, not just in the region, but with any country in the world. And the reason for this is that we were very closely associated with the events of 1971. And of course, up to 1947, we were part of one country. So the partition of British India was one of the most significant events of the 20th century. And thereafter, we watched how the people of this part of the world, who today comprise Bangladesh, were involved in a long struggle for their emancipation and for their freedom and for their justice. So our relationship with the people of Bangladesh, I think, traces back to those years. And ever since then, we have, over the last 40 years, tried to build a relationship which is, in a sense, helpful to both India and Bangladesh. Admittedly, there have been periods which have been good for the relationship and periods which were not so good. But if you look at the long-term trend, then the effort on the Indian part has been to reach out and develop a relationship which helps Bangladesh and helps India in all the walks of life in which the people are engaged in. So, at a broad level, I think that is what I would be able to say.
Now, you have been here and you have been passing through very hectic times, and we are going through a very crucial time also. I was just wondering, how does India look at the political crisis that Bangladesh is facing today? How does India look at it?
Well, as a neighbor of Bangladesh and as two countries who share such a long border, naturally neither India nor Bangladesh can remain unaffected or be indifferent to what happens in each other's countries. So we have an interest in what happens in Bangladesh, and I'm sure Bangladesh has a similar interest in what happens in India. Because at one level, the destinies of our two peoples and our countries are very, very closely linked, more than perhaps any other two countries in the region. Effectively, we wish the people of Bangladesh the best. We would wish them to overcome their differences, to be able to resolve their differences in a manner which is peaceful, which is done through dialogue, through discussion, and the outcome should be such that it is acceptable to all the people of Bangladesh. And we do not have any intention to interfere in the internal affairs of Bangladesh, but as a friendly neighbor and as a well-wisher, we do hope that the people of Bangladesh and their leaders can arrive at solutions and at outcomes which enable the people here who are living in Bangladesh to realize their aspirations.
You know, Mr. Saran, that over here there is a perception that particularly by the not the ruling party, the others, that New Delhi interest in Bangladesh increases when a particular political party is in power, and the other way around. This has been a perception. It's not the reality, or maybe it is the reality. I have no idea about that. Now, how does one clarify that position? Because you see the top high-level visits from India, right from the present president, who was that time the finance minister, he was the acting prime minister, foreign minister. He had paid several visits. Your foreign secretary paid a visit. Many ministers are coming over here. And I understand these are maybe mostly development issues and other areas. But the perception again is that India is always extremely favorable to Bangladesh government if a certain political party is. How far is that is the truth, or how do you explain that?
Well, actually, I'm very glad you asked this question, because you know, this is important to. It's important to you know, to kind of clarify this this whole matter. Let me say that our friendship has and will always be with the people of Bangladesh. We have always wanted to have a broad-based and an inclusive relationship with Bangladesh. We are also convinced that the opposition has a key role to play in any democracy, including in Bangladesh, and that all political parties and the institution of a political party is a pillar of democracy. So the role of the government party, the role of the opposition party are both equally important if we have to succeed in Bangladesh's journey towards a durable and a sustainable democratic order. Having said that, let me also say that the government of India deals with the government of the day in Bangladesh.
That's how it should be.
Now, if the people of Bangladesh have chosen their representatives and they are currently in power, then frankly it is appropriate for us to be trying to deal with the government of the day and also trying to advance our relationship with the government based on the principles of mutual respect and mutual sovereignty and non-interference, and which is what we are trying to do. And I believe that we have made progress in the sense that we have broken new ground, and we have a relationship which we believe has contributed to the betterment of both countries. At the same time, being a democracy ourselves and recognizing the importance of the opposition, we have kept in constant touch with the opposition parties right through on a regular, consistent basis. And we have had fairly high-level exchanges with the opposition in Bangladesh. And to the opposition, we have told them that we recognize their role in a democracy, and we have sought to also keep them abreast of our relationship with the government. But on the whole, as I said, we want our relationship with Bangladesh to be sustainable and to be durable, to be broad-based and to be inclusive. And we would wish to proceed in that direction. Yes, India has a relationship with the Awami League, but so does every Bangladeshi, to the extent that this was the party which was in the forefront of Bangladesh's liberation war. And at that time, as it happened, it was the party of the day. And in that capacity, various organs of the Indian state and the people of India were actually exposed to the Awami League. So there is a historical context to that reality. But having said that, we are ready to deal with, and we have dealt with the government of the day. Whichever government is thrown up by the people and is elected by the people, India will be most happy to deal with them.
True, but when your foreign secretary arrived, and if I may recall, that she made statements to the press after meeting former President Ershad, that he should participate in election. There should be a maximum number of parties, which is fine. Her views were fine, but the only thing is that if they do not, then the rise of the extreme right-wing party would emerge. And if that's so, and that will not be favorable for India or for the region. How do you look at that?
See, let me say that as far as the Foreign Secretary's visit is concerned, she was not here on a mission to mediate.
Right.
This was her first visit to Bangladesh, and the idea of the visit was to familiarize herself with the Bangladeshi leadership, both in government and in opposition. And so therefore, she was very particular to make sure that during her visit, she met every section of society in Bangladesh, not just the government or the ruling party. So she did meet a cross-section, and she met the main opposition leaders. That was intended to show India's engagement with the people at large. And the second reason for a visit was to understand from the leadership, again both in government and outside, about their perceptions of what is happening in the country. The Foreign Secretary was very clear in her mind that her agenda is also to take stock of the bilateral relationship, where we stand vis-a-vis various issues. And I think I would go by her written statement to the editors and to the press during her visit, where she was absolutely clear that India will not interfere in the internal affairs. India wishes to have or wishes to see the consolidation of the democratic process and the democratic institutions in Bangladesh. And India wishes to see a process by which the aspirations of all the people of Bangladesh can be realized in a manner that is free, that is fair, that is impartial, and that has wide acceptability. And to the extent that she did, she discussed and asked the views of both the main opposition leaders about the forthcoming elections. And they, of course, explained to her their own positions. And
you were present in the,
I was present, and they put forward their views. But as I said, there was absolutely no intention to interfere in the decision making of any party. We have deep respect for the views of all the parties, and it is actually up to the parties, the political parties of Bangladesh, to arrive at any solution.
yeah, that's there.
And India will be happy to deal with and to work with any arrangement that is arrived at, and which throws up a process by which ultimately the people can contribute. The people can put across their views and exercise their right to franchise.
We'll continue this interesting
Sure.
discussion.
Sure.
Mr. High Commissioner, as you know, that in television it's customary to take a short break.
Absolutely.
And I'll just go for a minute
Sure.
and then come back again.
Sure, most welcome. Absolutely.
Viewers, we'll just take a short break and be back again to a fascinating discussion I'm having with His Excellency Mr. Pankaj Saran.